Hello, welcome back to the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman. Where we left off was Book 2, Reconstruction. Just to recap the events, Miss Jane Pittman, originally known as Tiki, was freed from being a slave, and now she is on a journey heading south heading north into Ohio to try to find Mr. Brown, a soldier who gave her name as Miss Jane Pittman. Going back to Book 2, Reconstruction, where we left off, Miss Jane Pittman gave up on trying to go to Ohio, or at least decided to stop for a bit, and decided to work at a plantation. A flicker of light, and again darkness. For a while there, it looked like everything was going to be good for us. We had a little school on the place, the first cabin on our left when you came into the quarters. All the small children went to school in the day. The big children and the grown people who had to go in the field went to school at night. The teacher was a young colored man from the north, a good-looking brown-skinned man, very good manners. The brown people, just like the children, all loved him, or the grown people, just like the children, all loved him. One day a week, we had a special teacher's day when we went to somebody's house and took dinner with them. Everybody tried to outdo everybody else. I didn't have a chair in my house. The bench wasn't good enough for the teacher to sit on, so I sent Ned out to borrow me a chair. When he got back with the chair, I sent him out to borrow a fork and a plate. I got the fork and plate from the woman who worked in the big house, and she told Ned to tell me don't be surprised if the teacher recognized him. Everybody else on the place had borrowed the same fork and that same plate before. Well, if he recognized him, his manners kept him from saying that he did. I didn't eat with him and Ned. I was too ashamed to do so. I pretended I had some work to do, but all the time he was eating, I was looking at him to see how he liked the food. After they got through eating, he asked Ned if he wanted to read something for me. He got the book out his pocket, the only book they had at school, and Ned had to stand beside him. And while he pointed to the words, Ned spoke them out. I sat there listening and smiling. Before then, I doubt if I ever looked at Ned like he was my own. I had always looked at him like he was a little boy that needed me. But listening to him read, I knowed if it wasn't for me, Ned wouldn't be here now. And I felt I hadn't just kept Ned from getting killed. I felt like I had born him out of my own body. After he went to bed that night, me and the teacher sat by the fire half talking. He asked me why I didn't come to school like the rest of the people. I told him when I came out the field that night, I was tired, and long as Ned was getting a learning, I was satisfied. We talked and talked. He had very good manners, and everybody liked him, especially the ladies. I liked him too, and I went to school a couple of times just to be near him. But I told myself I had no business thinking about somebody like that. And after I had gone there maybe 3 times, I didn't go no more. Then they had the colored politicians that used to come to the big house to hold meetings with Bone. They would come to the house once, maybe twice a week, stay a couple hours, then leave. If they had anything important to tell us, they would gather us at the school. This was church too. School and church, the same cabin. Most of the talk was about the federal government, especially the Republican Party. It was the Republicans that had freed us. And it was the Republicans that had the Freedom Bureau there to look after us. Excuse me. They wanted us to take interest in what was going on. They wanted us to vote, and vote Republican. The Democratic Party was for slavery, they said. And believe it or not, they said there was blacks in the Democratic Party too. You could always sport him, they said, because he had a white mouth and a tail. You could always spot him, they said, because he had a white mouth and a tail. They told us they was going to take us to Alexandria one day, so we could see a black Democrat at work. The day came. They sent some colored troops to the plantation to bring us in town. The town square was full of people, white and colored people. It was hot that day. People just standing there sweating and fanning. On the platform, the people were giving their speeches. One after another, white and colored. Every now and then, somebody would holler and call somebody else a damn liar. Then the troops would have to step in to keep them apart. When a black Democrat got up on the platform, somebody hollered, "Pull his pants down! Let's see his tail! We done already seen he got a white mouth." The black Democrat said, "I'd rather be a Democrat with a tail than a Republican that ain't got no brains." The people on the Democrat side laughed and clapped. The Democrats talked a while. Then the Republicans got up there and talked. The Democrats wanted the Yankees to get out so we could build on our own. The Republicans wanted the Yankees to stay. The Democrats said he wouldn't have peace till the Yankees had gone. The Republicans said we didn't have peace before they came there. The Republicans said every free man ought to have 40 acres and a mule. The Democrats said that was strange coming from a Republican when a dirty scallywag had been one of the biggest plantations in the parish. The Republicans said Bone had the plantation there to give people work who couldn't go out and get work on their own. It was burning up. The square packed. The argument going on and on and on. Then somebody hauled back and hit somebody. And what he did that for? It looked like everybody was waiting for that one lick. I grabbed Ned and dragged him under the platform. I had to fight my way under there, because everybody who wasn't fighting on top of the platform or around the platform was trying to get under there, just like I was. The fighting went on and on. Under the platform was burning up, but nobody moved out. And then after about an hour, the troops got everybody quieted down again. They took the troublemakers to jail and brought the rest of us back home. We heard later it was secret groups that had caused the trouble, names like the Ku Klux Klans, the White Brotherhood, the Camellias o Louisiana, groups liked that rode all over the state, beating and killing, who would kill any black man who tried to stand up, and kill any white man who tried to help them. Just after the war, many colored people tried to go out and start lives on their own little farms. The secret groups would come out there and beat them just because the crops was cleaner than the white man's crop. Another time they would beat a man because he has some grass in his crop. "What you growing there, Hawk?" they would ask him. "Corn, master," Hawk would say. "That looks like grass out there to me, Hawk," they would say. "Well, maybe a little bit, master," Hawk would say. "Before day in the morning I surely get it out, if the Lord spare." "No, you better start right now, Hawk," they would say. Then they would make you get down on your hands and knees and eat grass till you got sick. If they didn't get enough fun out of watching you throw up, they would tie you to a fence post or a tree and beat you. "Tomorrow night we come back again, Hawk," they would say. "And you better not have no grass out there, you hear?" Or, "Tomorrow night we come back here, you better have some grass on that field, hear, Charlie?" They was just after destroying any colored who tried to make it out on his own. They didn't care what excuse they used. But we seldom had trouble with the secret groups. Bone was important in the Republican Party, and he always had soldiers out there guarding his place. Every time the colored politicians came, they brought guards, and stationed them at the gate, and along the road. A mile or two away, we would hear that somebody had got beaten up or killed, but we know it would never happen where we lived. People used to say, "Where are y'all from?" We used to say with our heads high, "Mr. Bones' place." The people would say, "I hear that's a good place. They need any more people to work?" Sometimes we say yes, sometimes we had to say no. Then one evening, right after we had come in from the field, Bone called us to the house. It was dark. We came in the yard, and Bone was standing on the gallery with two people holding lanterns on both sides of him. He said he didn't own the place no more. The Sesh did. We had heard that the Sesh was fighting for their land, and had even heard in places where they had got it back. But we never thought it would happen where we was. We had soldiers there all the time. Colored politicians there all the time. How would the Sesh get the land? What was soldiers for? What was politicians for? What did they fight a war for if not to set us free? Bone said yes, they had fought a war to set us free, but now they wanted to bring this country back together. They had to get it together no matter what. He said till what was done was the Sesh was going to beat and kill. We asked how come they couldn't send more troops in. He said the Yankees was already tired fighting for us. Some of them was sorry they had ever gone to war. Besides that, the Yankees saw a chance to make money in the South now. The South needed money to get on their feet, and the Yankees had the money to lend. And that was the deal. The Sesh got the land, but the Yankees lent the money. After he had paid us off, we went down the schoolhouse to talk. Some was leaving, some was for staying. But go where, we asked. Before we know what we had to do, we had to leave the place where we was slaves. But where do we go now when Bone done already told us the Yankees don't care either? Let's stick it out, some of us said. We not slaves no more. If we don't like it, we can always move. We dismissed the meeting around midnight and went home. Half the people left, but this time I was one of them who stayed behind. A couple days later, the owner showed up. Bone had gone. The teacher and all the colored troops and colored politicians had gone. A few people left in the corridors went up to the house to hear what the owner had to say. He was standing in the gallery, in almost the same place where Bone had stood up a couple days before. Tall, slim, narrow-faced man. Still had on his sash uniform, even with the sable hanging on his side. His name, he said, was Colonel Eugene I. Dye. I hope I don't have no more black soldiers and no more black politicians around here, he said. He looked over at the few of us left there. That schoolhouse up there gonna be shut down till I can find y'all a competent teacher. He looked over us again to see if we had what we had to say. Wage is still the same. 15 for the men, 10 for the women. I can't pay y'all till the end of the year, but you can draw rations and clothing from the store. If that suits you, stay. If it don't, catch up with that cottontail flying scallywag and the rest of the hot-footed blacks who was here 2 days ago. If Colonel Dye had told me that a week before, I would have turned around then and left. But after what Bone had told us, I had no more faith in heading north than I had staying south. I would stay right here and do what I could for me and Ned. If I heard of a place where I could live better, where Ned could get a better learning, I would go there to live. Till then I would stay where I was. It was slavery again, all right. No such thing as colored troops, colored politicians, or even a colored teacher. Anywhere near the place, the only teacher to come there was white. And only time he was in the winter when the weather was so bad the children couldn't go in the field. You didn't need a pass to leave the place like you did in slavery time. But you had to give Colonel Dye's name if the secret group stopped you on the road, just because the Yankee troops and the Freedom Bureau had gone didn't mean they had stopped writing. They wrote and killed more than ever now. The colored people wrote letters to Washington. Sometimes a group would get up enough to nerve to go back there in person. But the troops never did come back. Yankee business came in, yes. Yankee money came in to help the South back on their feet, yes. But no Yankee troops. We was left there to root, hog, or die. That's the end of that section. Moving on to the next section, Exodus. Then the people started leaving, but the people had always left from there. All through slavery, people was trying to get away from the South. The old masters and the patrollers used to go after the people with dogs. If you was a good slave, a good worker, they would bring you back home and beat you. Some of the masters would brand their slaves. If you was one of the troublemakers always trying to run away, they would bring you back and sell you to a trader going to New Orleans. If you give them any trouble in the swamps, they wouldn't just kill you back there. I known a man who wouldn't come back and they had to shoot him. He told them he'd rather they shoot him down like a dog than go back there. And he tore his shirt open to let them shoot at his heart. They shot him right where he was and left him back there for the buzzards. They had a bayou some 5 miles from where I lived. They called it the Dirty Bayou. The people used to run in the bayou to throw the dogs off their scent, and that's how the patrollers used to catch them. The bayou was too wide and boggy, and the slaves couldn't swim. They had to wade over, and that's how the patrollers would catch them. The patrollers would put the gun on them and holler for them to come back. If they didn't come back, the patrollers would shoot them in the water or make them drown, trying to get away. But many of them made it, not trying to wade over. It was too wide and the mud too sticky. They used to build weirs. They could go in the swamp every night or every chance they got, and they would work little by little till they had finished. Then they would edge the wharf into the water and head out. Those was the smart ones. The dumb ones tried to wade over, and that's when they got caught. That bayou got more people in it than a graveyard. Now the Yankee soldiers and the Freedom Bureau left. The people started leaving again. Not right away, because Mr. Frederick Douglass said give the South a chance. But when the people saw they was treated just as bad now as before the war, they said to heck with Mr. Frederick Douglass and started leaving. The old masters didn't think too much of it at first. They was glad the blacks was leaving. If they got rid of all the bad blacks, them the only ones leaving. Anyhow, if all of them left, there wouldn't be no more trouble. They didn't know it at first, but it was the bad ones leaving. Droves after droves of good and bad was leaving. If you went to town, you would see whole families going by. Men in front with bundles on their backs, women's following them with a child in their arm, and holding another one by the hand. And now, seeing the old masters did start worrying. Who was going to pick the cotton now? Who was going to cut the cane? They went to Washington. It was the North inciting the blacks for their votes. The Yankees pretended they wanted to help the South back on their feet, but all they wanted to do was control the South. The people in Washington called the colored in and asked them if it was true the North was buying their vote. The colored said no. They was leaving because they couldn't get fair treatment in the South. Now the old masters came back and tried to force the people to stay. They turned the clans loose on them. The people still went. They slipped away at night. They took to the swamps. They still went. Ned leaves home. Some colored soldiers from the war organized a committee to go around and see how the colored people was treated. They went all over the state, checking on how the colored was living. Ned found out about the committee and joined it. He reported on the parish where we lived. He told the committee the work we did, how long we had to work, how much money we got for working, how much we had to pay for food and clothes, how the overseer treated us in the field. When the committee found out the colored was treated no better than they was treated in slavery, they told them to leave for the North. Ned's job was to tell people how to get to New Orleans, how to travel, where they could stop, where they could find help and food. Ned was 17 or 18 then. I'm sure he wasn't 20 yet. Tall, slim, nothing but arms and legs. Very quiet, always serious. Too serious. I didn't like to see him serious like that. I used to always ask him, Ned, what are you thinking about? He would say, nothing. But I know he was thinking about his mama. He never said it. He never talked about her. He used to call me mama. But I know he was thinking about her all the time. I would do anything so he could keep his mind off her. I would make him talk about school. He liked his first teacher, the young colored man who was there when we came to this place. And we used to talk about him long after he had gone. I would make him talk about the other children in the quarters. Make him talk about anything to keep him from thinking so much. But he was a serious child. Even if this terrible thing hadn't happened to his mama and little sister, he still would have been a serious person. He had a pretty little smile, though. He was a real black, with dimples in his jaws, and he had the whitest teeth you ever saw. Real handsome when he wasn't serious. Tall, slim, handsome black child. He got heavy when he got older. He got to be 200 pounds or better, but he was nothing but arms and legs when he was growing up. He had changed his name now, Ned Douglas. Before he was Ned Brown, after me. We didn't know his daddy's name, so he was Ned Brown. Then he changed it to Douglas, after Mr. Frederick Douglass. He was going to be a great leader like Mr. Douglas was. He was Ned Douglas a while. Then he was Ned Stephen Douglas. Ned Stephen Douglas a while. Then he was Edward Stephen Douglas. After the rest of the young men around him was taking on names like that. Some Douglas, some Brown after John Brown. Not Jane Brown. Some Turners after Nat Turner. Summers after Sherman. Ask one his name right off, he would tell you John Brown. Ask him his daddy's name, he told you Ed Washington. Some people used to laugh and shake their heads. But these children was serious. I used to tell Ned all the time he was too serious. He had learned to read and he could write. He always had some kind of book around the house. When the old masters came back from Washington to stop the colored people from leaving the South, they started watching people like Ned. They known about the committee. They known he was a member, and now they was watching him. Colonel Dye called me to the house one day and told me to make him stop. I told him I would talk to Ned. He told me don't just talk, make him stop or he was going to get himself in a lot of trouble. I told Ned, but he said he wouldn't stop. One night, while he was out doing work for the committee, they came riding. My cabin was way down in the quarters, and they passed all the other cabins that come to mine. It was in the winter, and it was a full moon, and it had plenty of stars. And they came on horses. Some 8 or 9 of them. I didn't know they was out there till they had kicked in the door in. All had on their sheets. 3 of them came in, the others stayed out. I could see them there on the horses. "Where he at?" one of them asked me. "Who?" I said. He slapped me down with the back of his hand. Then they turned over everything in the house. Turned over my table, kicked the bench in the fire. The end of it got scorched when they had left. I had doused it out with water. "You still don't know where he's at?" the same one asked me. "No," I said, getting up. He waited till I was up good, then he slapped me back down. "Still don't," he said. "She don't know, Bo," another one said. "She know, Bo," said. "Let her be, Bo," the other one said. "We'll get him some other time. Let's get out of here." They got on their horses and went back up to the quarters. They had come to pass by the big house, so the people at the house must have heard them. I wouldn't have been a bit surprised if Colonel Dye hadn't sent them himself. Late that night, Ned came back to the house. My face was swole, and he asked me what had happened. I told him. He told me to pack. We was leaving now. We could take to the swamps till we got off the place. Then we would take the road to New Orleans. In New Orleans, we would get a boat for Kansas. "I can't go with you," I said. "You got to," he said. "They came here to beat you this time. They'll do worse when they come back." "They won't do me nothing," I said. "If I stop," he said, "you want me to stop too?" "I want you to do what you think is right," I said. "I'm doing what I think is right," he said. "Then you have to go, or they'll kill you." "You have to go with me." "No," I said. "You ain't married to this place," he said. "In a way," I said. "I can't stop, Mama," he said. "Then you have to go," I said. I sat on the bench in front of the fire half, and pulled Ned down beside me. I looked in his face, and he was already crying. "This is not my time," I said. "After the war wasn't my time," he said, "but I went everywhere you wanted me to go." "People don't keep moving, Ned. They move when they're slaves," he said. "What's up there?" I asked him. "Everybody else going," he said. "Many going, but not everybody," I said. "I think you ought to go, but not me." Just leave you here to be a dog? He said. I won't be a dog, I said. You'll be a dog, he said. To eat the crumbs they thrown on the floor. I won't eat crumbs, Ned. And I won't eat off the floor, I said. You know better than that. I don't mean it like that, he said. I mean they're making us separate, and I don't want us separate. It had to happen one day, I told him. I told you that when you first started. You want me to give it up? Not listen, you want to, I said. Things like this, you gotta make up your own mind. He sat there squeezing my hands and crying. I pulled him close and held him to my bosom. You ought to go, I said. They might come back tonight. I ought to give it up, he said. How you gonna live? I'll make it out, I said. I can't give it up, he said. I have to stay here and just let them kill me. I want you to go, I said. They will kill you if you stay. I had already cooked up his grub, and while he sat on the bench eating, I packed the rest for him to take. All the time I was packing his things, I kept from looking at him. I knowed if I had looked at him, he would have seen how I felt, and he wouldn't have been able to go. I didn't want him to go. God knows I didn't want him to go. But I knowed he had to leave one day. So why not now? When I had packed his food and clothes, I put the sack by the door. Ned took a long time to finish eating. I did everything to keep from looking at him, but he got up to go. My heart jumped in my chest, but I forced myself to go up to him. We're doing what we think is best, I said. He held me close. He was so tall and thin, I could feel him crying, but I held up till he was gone. I stood in the door and watched him till he had gone out the quarters. Then I went back inside, and I laid down on the bed, and I cried all night. Two letters from Kansas. I stayed in the cabin a long time by myself. Then me and Joe Pittman started seeing each other. Joe Pittman had been married, but his wife was dead, and left him with two children. Two girls. He had known each other for a long time before Ned left for Kansas. But we never looked at each other like we was interested. I had two reasons. Ned was by himself in this world, except for me, and I didn't want no man, no children spitting him just because he was an orphan. The other reason I never looked at a man, I was barren. An old woman on the place had told me that. I went to her one day and told her how my body acted, and didn't act. After we had sat down a while, she said one word, barren. I went to a doctor and he told me the same thing. You barren, all right, he told me. It happened when I was nothing but a tot. Said I had got hit or whipped in a way that had hurt me inside. Said this might be one reason I didn't grow up too much either. Asked me how my appetite was. I said, appetite? My appetite good as anybody else's appetite, he said. You all right? Go back on home. When Joe Pittman asked me to be his wife, I told him I wanted to think about it a while, because I didn't want to tell him I was barren. I liked him now, and I was scared if I told him I was barren, he would leave me for somebody else. He asked me again, and I told him I wanted to think about it some more. He kept on asking me, and that's when I told him. We were sitting down in the house that day eating when I told him that. I told him if he didn't want me no more, that was all right. I would understand. But all he said was, ain't we all been hurt by slavery? If you just say you'll help me raise my two girls, I'll be satisfied. He was a real man, Joe Pittman was. We didn't get married. I didn't believe in the church then, and Joe never did. We just agreed to live together, like people did in the slavery time. Slaves didn't get married in churches. They jumped over the broom handle. Old mistress and young mistress held the broom handle up off the floor, and old master told the slaves to hold hands and jump over. If they was old people, old mistress and young mistress would hold the broom down low, and the old couple would step over sprightly. Old master would say, "Step sprightly there, Jubal. Step sprightly there, Minnie." They would step sprightly, and they was pronounced husband and wife. Me and Joe Pittman didn't think we needed the broom. We wasn't slaves no more. We would just live together long as we wanted each other. That was all. Not long after we started living together, Joe told me he wanted to leave Colonel Dye's plantation. Joe was sharp with horses, and he was sure he could find a place where he could get more money and get better treatment than what he was getting here. I told him he wanted to leave, I would go with him, but I didn't want to leave till I heard from Ned. It was almost a year and I still hadn't gotten a word from Ned. I didn't want him to come back when I wasn't there or him to write me a letter, and I didn't get it. Joe said he would wait till I heard, but at the same time he would look round for a new place. Every chance he got, he went out looking. If he heard of a place, no matter how far it was, he would get there and get back before he had to go in the field. He went and checked it out. Ned wrote me a month after he left home, but I didn't get the letter for a year. He wrote to me somebody he met in New Orleans. He wrote the letter to somebody he met in New Orleans, just before he got on the boat for Kansas. He didn't want to send the letter directly to me because the people he known would have been suspicious. Anything that had Kansas or North on it might have been torn up and thrown away. He sent a letter to his friend, and his friend was supposed to send it to the preacher on the plantation. And the preacher was supposed to read it to me. Instead of his friend sending the letter on to the preacher like he was supposed to, he put the letter somewhere and forgot about it. When he found it again, he could hardly read the address, and he sent it to the wrong place. When it came back, he had to get in touch with Ned in Kansas again. Ned was in Leavenworth when he first wrote the letter. Now he had gone to a place called Atchison. It was a year before everything got straightened out. The letter told how the people was coming to Kansas by the boatload. At first, how the white people in Kansas was helping them. How they collected money to give them. And how they organized committees to go to Washington and places like that for money and clothes, money and food. Even from across the sea, they got money and clothes. The people at first was almost too nice, but that was the first letter. When I got the second letter, things had changed already. The white people couldn't help all of them. There wasn't any work for them to do. Now the white people didn't want them in town. Ned was on a committee that found new places for people to live. He traveled by boat and down the river. But no matter where he went, there was already too many people. His committee sent letters back to the South. Not all the people to come to one place. There was other states where they could go and find comfort. But the people had heard of Kansas first. Like sheep, they had to go where everybody else had gone. Now the riots. When the letters and papers didn't keep them out, the white people drove them out with sticks and guns. When Ned went out in the country to see how they was living, he said some of them had died from the cold. Others was starving. Some was talking about coming back south, but most of them was going further west or heading north. The only good news I got from Ned at this time, he was working for some white people who liked him. They saw how much he cared for his race, and they thought he could help them much more if he finished school. He told them he wanted to go to school, but he thought he ought to help me. For the first letter on, he always sent me $3 or $4 every time he wrote. When I got the first money, I wrote back to him and told him I didn't need it. I was making out just fine. He told me if I didn't need it, put it up, but keep it. He never told me he wanted to go back to school. He didn't tell me that till I wrote and told him me and Joe Pittman was married. He wasn't married. We wasn't married. We was just living together. But Ned wouldn't have liked that. But it wasn't till after I told him about me and Joe, he told me he wanted to go back to school. Ned was working on a farm in Kansas. He worked in the day. He rode a horse to school at night. This went on for 5-6 years. When he finished, they gave him a job teaching there. He stayed till that war started in Cuba. Then he joined the army. After the war, he came back here. He wanted to teach at home now. Another home. Joe Pittman found a place near the Louisiana-Texas borderline where he could break horses. He knew all about breaking horses and branding cattle. He had learned that on Colonel Dye's place. But now he wanted to go where he could make a better living. After we was talking it over, just me and him, we went up to the house to tell Colonel Dye we wanted to leave. Colonel Dye was old and wrinkled now, but ornery still. Not just ornery, he was losing his mind now. Once every year, he used to put on his sesh uniform and ride to Alexandria. 2 or 3 days later, he would come back. It looked like every time he came back, he was more and more crazy. Sometimes he used to gather us all at his house, just to look at us. After he had looked at us for about a minute, he would tell us to go back. One time he called us up there, and by the time we got up there, he had forgot what he had sent for us. "What y'all doing here?" he said. "You them for them, Pa," one of his boys said. "Well, I'm sending them right on back," he said. "Get out of here. Go back to work." When Joe went up there that day and told him he wanted to leave, he said, "What's the matter? I ain't been treating you right?" Joe told him it wasn't that. He had been treated good here, but he wanted to go out and do a little sharecropping of his own. He wouldn't dare to tell the colonel he wanted to go break horses for more money. He told him sharecropping. Colonel Dye told Joe he would pay the family $5 more a month if he stayed. Joe shook his head. No, he wanted to go out there and do a little sharecropping. "Listen, Joe, I'll turn over a piece of that good bottom land to you, and you work it all you want." This was the first time Colonel Dye had offered anyone a piece of his land on his place. He had said before that this was the last thing he would ever do. Joe knew this before. He went up there. That's why he went up there saying sharecropping. He said the old colonel looked at him like he was losing his best friend. "You a good man, Joe, and I need more of you here to mind my stock. My children are out here too lazy to do a thing. This ain't another black on this place that can tell you a cow from a hog." Joe shook his head. "I like to go sharecropping." Now the old colonel got mad, acting like he was losing his best friend. One second, next second he was blazing mad. "All right, if you want to go sharecropping, go sharecrop," he said. Joe thanked him and turned to go. "Just a minute," the colonel said, Joe stopping looking at him. "Ain't you forgetting something?" "Sir," Joe said. "My $150, the colonel said. $150, Joe said. "That $150 to get you out of trouble when the clerks had you," the colonel said. "You forget about that?" It was true. Joe Pittman had been mixed up in little politics just after the war, and everybody around there known about it. The clerks got a hold of him, and the colonel had spoke out. But at that time, nothing was mentioned about money. "I didn't know you paid," Joe said. "Cluxes don't stop killing a black just because you say hold it," the colonel said. "Now you pay me my $150 or get away from my door." Joe came back up and told me what happened. He sat up all night trying to think what we ought to do next. Joe was set on leaving, no holding him back. But he couldn't leave and not pay Colonel Dye his money. He known he didn't owe Colonel Dye any money. But how could he prove it? In the Freedom Bureau once? But they wasn't there no more. We stayed up all night. Then we both said that Joe ought to see if he couldn't borrow some money from a new man he was going to work for. The next morning, Joe packed a lunch and started out. Started out on foot with 100 miles to go. Somebody told Colonel Dye he was missing, and Colonel Dye came out in the field to ask me where he was. Gone looking for your money, I said. The old colonel got mad at first, saying he wasn't going to do to Joe when Joe came back. But then he started laughing. Where could a black get $150 from? He rode away laughing. A couple weeks later, Joe came back. Walked almost all to Texas. Rode a horse all the way back. He left the horse tied in the swamps, scared Colonel might accuse him of stealing it. Then he went up to the house and knocked. Colonel Dye came back to the door, chewing. He had been sitting at the table eating. "Where you been?" he said. "Now you know what them mules out there hungry. Want me to come in that yard with my stick?" Joe handed him the money. Colonel Dye couldn't take it at first. It was like it was Confederate money. Then he looked at it. Then he looked at Joe. Then at the money. Then wiped his mouth and counted the money. "Look like it all here. But the interest," he said, "time lap between loan or loanee come about $30 more. Well?" Joe came back and told me he owed Colonel Dye even more money. I had been getting money from Ned, and what I had saved from my wages came out to about $25. But we needed $5 more. So here we go, up and down the corridors, selling the little furniture we had. I think we got about $1.50 for everything. Joe had an old shotgun. He sold that. Another $1. We tried to sell our clothes, but nobody wanted them. We had a pig we was going to take with us, but we needed the $2 now. Joe stuck the pig in a sack and started up and down the corridors again. After he sold the pig, we took the money to Colonel Dye, and the colonel slid in the door, counting the money. When he saw us all there, he started to shut the back door and go back inside. But he saw Joe still out there in the yard. "Well?" he said. "Mr. Clyde said be sure to bring a receipt," Joe said. He said he didn't want to have to come this far south for a piece of paper. Colonel Dye went back inside and wrote he had received $150. He didn't say a thing about the extra $30. He came to the back door and threw a piece of paper on the ground. "Don't let the sun set on you anywhere near my place," he said. Joe came back and told me and the girls to get ready. The two girls was called Ella and Clara. Ella, the oldest one, and Clara, the youngest one, and looked just like Joe. After we had got everything we was going to take with us, Joe led us back in the swamps. Ella and Clara got on the horse with the bundle and me, and Joe walked in front. I asked Joe how come he got the money so easy. He said it wasn't easy. Some colored men had met and had to speak with him. Then they had to prove to Mr. Clyde how good he was. Clyde picked one of the wildest horses he had. He broke the horse through. But he was so stoved up he had to lay up a while before he could start back home. It took us about 10 days to reach Clyde's place. We traveled the swamps all the time for fear the secret groups might see us and attack us for leaving Colonel Dye's place. We ran out of food 4 days out, and from then on we ate what we could find. Corn, potatoes. If Joe was lucky, he might kill a possum, or if we came up to the bayou and catch a fish or two. We ate anything we could get. We met people, black and white, but they saw us on the move and wouldn't have nothing to do with us. We came up to Clyde's place about five one evening. Clyde and his men had been killing hogs, and when we came up, the men was standing in the yard talking. Clyde told Joe to take us to the back and tell the women in the kitchen to give us food, a good feeding. I could smell that was good hog meat from way across the yard. The woman was making hog bread cheese and blood pudding. They had handed us a big pan of food, and we found an open, clean spot in the ground to sit down. When we got through almost too full to move, we went back to the house. Mr. Clyde told Joe he wouldn't need him till Monday, so Joe would take us on home. The cabin wasn't much bigger than the one we had left. We had made a new start, and everything looked right smart better. After the children was to bed, me and Joe sat at the fire half talking. We were so proud we had moved, so happy for the good meal we got soon as we got here. Every time we looked at each other, we had to grin. feet sore, back still hurting, but grinning like two children courting for the first time. We tried to keep from looking at each other. I looked at the fire half. Joe looked at the door. Then I looked at the door. Joe looked at the fire half. When we couldn't find nowhere else to look, we looked at each other and grinned. No touching, no patting each other on the knee, just grinning. We got there on a Friday. Next day, Saturday, I heard that I was supposed to work in the big house. I hadn't worked in a house since I was a slave, but I worked where they put me. What I couldn't figure out, why I got the job soon as I got there. How come some other woman didn't have it? Some people like housework, make them feel more important. House blacks always thought they was better than field blacks. I asked Joe if I knowed why they had give me the job. He said he didn't know either. Monday morning, when they called Joe for work, I got up too. After he ate and left, I went over to the house. It was pitch black, but I didn't know what they wanted me for. So I went on anyhow. At that time, some of the kitchens used to set away from the house. I didn't know where I was going to be working. So I went back to the kitchen and sat down on a barrel I saw in front of the house. I sat there and sat there. I sat there over an hour. Just as the sun was coming up, I saw a woman, a great big brown-shinned woman walking across the yard toward me. It had been a heavy dew the night before, and her legs and feet were shining wet. She came up to the kitchen and looked at me sitting there. "Well," she said. "My name's Jane Pittman," I said. "I didn't ask that," she said. "What you want?" "I'm working here," I said. "No, you ain't," she said. "I don't need nobody spying on me." "Spying?" I said. "Get out of my way before I am." "You up beside the head," she said. She didn't give me time to move. She pushed me side the head, and I fell to the ground. I brushed off my clothes and went in the kitchen where she was. She was lighting a fire in the fire half. When she got through, she looked at me standing there. "You don't hear good, do you?" she said. I was going to tell her I didn't want to be there in the first place. I'd rather be out on the field. But she grabbed me and pitched me back outside. I fell flat on my face, my hands covered with chicken and guinea stuff. I wiped my hands in the grass and went back in the kitchen. Molly was singing. She didn't even stop. She just grabbed me, still singing, and slammed me back out there. While I was sailing in the air, I was hoping I hit a clean spot. That was like hoping I didn't hit the ground. I wiped my hands and clothes and went back in. Molly just stood there looking at me now. When she went back to the fire half, I got the broom and started sweeping. She jacked the broom out of my hand and threw it back in the corner. I kept out her way after that, but I was watching everything she did. After she got through cooking, she took the food to the house. I waited and waited for her to come back. When she didn't, I went over to the house too. The white people was sitting on the table eating. One white lady was just coming in the dining room. She was Mr. Clyde's daughter, Miss Claire. "You must be Jane," she said. "Yes, ma'am," I said. "You'll take care of the children, Jane." "I don't need nobody taking care of them children," Molly said. "I can cook and take care of them children." Miss Claire didn't answer Molly. She looked up at the side of my face and my forehead. "You hurt anywhere else?" she asked me. I touched my forehead. I had a knot up there, the size of a marble. Miss Claire took me at the side of my face again. She was too much of a lady to tell me I had some guinea stuff there. I could see her mouth working like she wanted to say something. Then she pressed her lips tight. Then her nose worked a little bit like she was hoping to smell something. All this time, she was looking straight in my eye. She wanted me to guess what she didn't want to tell me. One of the children at the table looked at me and pointed his finger. "Caw, caw," he said. Then everybody else at the table looked at me. And all of them bust out laughing. I touched the spot where they was looking at it, and it was right there. All right. Molly didn't want nobody else working in that house with her. Scared the person would take her place. She had been with the Clyde family ever since she was a young lady. She had been a cook, she had been a nurse, but now she was in her 60s. And they thought she was getting old and needed help. Molly didn't think she needed help. She was scared if she got help, the next morning the other person would be taking over. She had it pretty easy all her life, and she wasn't going to let nobody take that from her. The people tried to show Molly they didn't want nobody else to take her place. "We love you. That's why we want people to here to help you," they told her. But Molly didn't see it that way, and she made everybody who came to work pay for it. She would spill hot ashes on the floor and swear you was trying to burn the house down. If she heard one of the children crying, she would swear you had done him something wrong. If you had to make a fire in the fire half, or you had to make up a bed, she would find something wrong with it every time. She did everything to get rid of you. Then after she had got you out, she couldn't take care of the work by herself. Molly tried to get rid of me just like she had got rid of all the others. She had told lies on them till the white people had to let them go. When the white people found out she was telling lies and refused to fire the servants, Molly hexed them and vexed them till they quit themselves. When that didn't work on me, she went to the white people crying. She was quitting because they didn't love her no more. She said she had wet nursed Miss Claire, and now Miss Claire was the main one trying to put her out in the cold. They told Molly that wasn't true. They wanted her there. They wanted her to be there the rest of her life. Molly said they didn't want her. They wanted me. One day she told them she was leaving. They told her she couldn't leave. She'd been with them most of her life. She said me or her. One of us had to go. Miss Claire said I wasn't going, but she didn't want Molly to go either. She told me herself that she loved Molly much as she loved anybody else, and she wanted Molly to spend the rest of her life there with them. Molly said me or her, one had to go. I told them to let me go in the field. No, they said. Molly went to Derrida and got a job looking after an old lady there. I think for the first 6 months after Molly left, Miss Claire cried for Molly every day. She would go to Derrida every week to see Molly. If she didn't go to see Molly, Molly came here to see her. They would sit in the front room and talk for hours. Molly would spend the night and go back the next day. I went to Miss Claire and I told her I was quitting. She told me if I did, she just had to get somebody else. I told her I didn't care what she did. I was quitting. I went home and told Joe I had quit. Joe told me if I didn't get back up in the house, he was going to take a stick and run me back up there. Molly died 4 or 5 years after that. The doctor says she died from old age, but Molly died from a broken heart. They brought her back to the place and buried her in the family's plot. One of the things I'll always regret, me and Molly never got to be friends. Maybe in the beyond we'll meet again, and I'll have a chance to tell her I never meant her any harm. I think up there she will understand much better than she did down here. I stayed there about 10 years. All that time I worked in the house, and Joe broke the horses. They used to get the horses out of Texas. We wasn't too far off the Louisiana-Texas borderline. And they used to get the horses out Texas and bring them home to break them. Then sell them to a boat that went down the Sabine River. Joe was called Chief Breaker. Everybody called him Chief. Chief Pittman. He broke horses nobody else could ride. People used to come from all over just to see him. Bet on him like you bet on the rodeo riders. Clyde made as much on his rodeo as he made selling the horses down the river. I dreaded the days they went to Texas to get horses. Scared somebody was coming back telling me Joe was dead. Scared they might bring him in the house all broken up. I had seen it happen. A young boy had been thrown against a fence, laid in a bed a week, suffering, screaming before he died. Every time Joe went out now, I thought about that boy. But when I told him how I felt, all he said was, "What else can I do? I got to make a living for something. Maybe the Lord put me here to break horses." "And maybe he didn't," I said. "Well, till he come down here and tell me different, I reckon I'll just go on breaking them," Joe said. Together we was making $1 a day. We didn't have to pay rent or buy food, so we would save most of our money that we made. After we had been there 2-3 years, we had already paid back the $150 Joe had borrowed. A couple more years, I thought we had enough and we ought to find a little place of our own. Joe said it wasn't that easy. He was too valuable just to pack up and quit like that. And what would he do? Farm? He didn't want to do no farming. No, he wanted to ride horses. He was good at it and he liked it. When I saw he wasn't going to leave, I started having dreams about his death. I saw him dead in every way you could think possible. Thrown out a fence, thrown against a tree, dragged through the swamps. Every way possible a cowboy could die. I dreamed of it. Joe. I dreamed of Joe. Then one dream started coming back over and over. The one where he was thrown against the fence. When I told him, he said, "Now, little mama man, come here to die, didn't he? Now, little mama, man came here to die, didn't he? That's the contract he signed when he was born. I hereby decree that one of these days I'm going to lay down on these old bones. Now, now all I can do is wait. What? Now all he can do while he's here is do something, and do that thing good. The best thing I can do in this world is ride horses. Maybe I can be a better farmer, but the way things is a colored man can't get out there and start farming anytime he want. He's gonna have to take orders from some white man breaking horses. I don't take orders from a soul on earth. That's why they calls me chief. Maybe one day, one of them will come along and get me. Maybe I'll get too old and just have to step down. Maybe some little young buck will come around and take over chief from me, and I won't have to ride the terrible ones no more. But till that day, get here I got to keep going. That's what life's about. Doing it good as you can. When the time comes for them to lay you down on that black hole, they can say one thing. He did it as good as he could. That's the best thing you can say for a man. Horse breaker or yard sweeper, let them say the poor boy did it as good as he could. Every time he left the house, I thought that was the last time I was going to see him alive. Then a month or two later, they would show up with another drove. These was the good times, when the men came riding back. Everybody was happy, the white and the black. The men would put the horses in the corral a few days. Then after the men had rested up, after the word would go out to break them. After the word was out, they had new horses on the place. Then they would go out to break them. The corral was between the house and the quarters, and I could see them riding the horses from the yard or from one of the windows at the house. 7 or 8 years later, after we had been living there, it happened. It was cold that day when they came in with the horses. It was February, a Monday, almost freezing. Any time the men came back, especially with a good drove, they had a feast in the kitchen at the big house. Me and Joe went to the feast late that day. When we came up, even with the corral, a black stallion ran along the fence, whinnying and bobbing his head. I got so weak I almost fell. This was the same horse I had been seeing in my dreams, but when I told it to Joe, all he did was laugh. Everybody was already in the kitchen when we got there. Joe sat down at the table and I served him. The women didn't sit at the table with the men on that day. They served their men. Clyde came back to the kitchen and he had a drink, but he didn't sit down at the table. While he was back there, Joe told him what I said about the horse, and everybody bust out laughing. "Well, if Joe don't ride him, reckon I'll have to do it," Clyde said. When he said that, the rest of the men laughed even harder. Joe laughed so much he cried. He was chief. Who was going to ride something he was scared to ride? When we was going back home, the stallion heard us coming, or he smelled Joe's scent in the air, and he ran along the fence again. None of the other horses paid us any mind, just him, tall, slick, and black, just running along the fence. We stopped there, and I looked at him a while. He was the devil far as I was concerned, but Joe stood there grinning at him. Joe said he'd give them more trouble than all the other horses put together. He was stronger and faster than any horse he had ever seen. Run for days, and wouldn't get tired. Leap over a canal that a regular horse wouldn't even try. After they had been after him about a week, some of the men started saying he was a ghost, maybe even a haint. Clyde said he wasn't either. He was a horse, and that they was going to catch him and take him home. They trailed him a week, night and day. They saw him here. They saw him over there. Sometimes right on them, other times far, far away. But they cornered him in the mountains. Joe said after they had caught him, every last man there looked hurt. Hurt because the chase was over. Hurt because they had to break him just like you'd break any other horse. All the time he stood there looking at that horse, he was pacing along the fence. After we walked away, I looked back over my shoulder, and I saw him standing there, all tall, slick, and black. And I told Joe that horse gave me the chills. Joe said it was just the weather. Man's way. I couldn't sleep that night for worrying over that horse. If I shut my eyes a second, I saw him standing there in the corral. If I kept them shut any length of time, I saw nothing but him throwing Joe against that fence. A cowboy to fall in no disgrace. But I had dreamed of this horse even before I saw him, and that did worry my mind. The next day I made pretend I was sick, and I asked them to let me go see the doctor. Joe wanted to drive me into town, but I told him I wasn't that bad. He told me to take Ella with me, but I told him I wanted to go by myself, because it wasn't the doctor. It was a hoodoo in town I wanted to see. I didn't believe in hoodoo. I never have. But nobody else wanted to listen to me. I wanted to find out if I was dreaming this just because I wanted Joe to stop writing, or if it was dreaming this because it was going to happen. The hoodoo lived in a narrow little street called Dee Street, and the little town where she lived was called Grady. She had flower bushes all over the yard, but no flowers, because it was winter. She had bottles stuck upside down around all the flower bushes, and 2 rows of bottles side the walk from the gate up to the house. Bottles every color you can mention. She had scrubbed the gallery that morning, and she had sprinkled red brick over the gallery and steps. She must have heard me stop the wagon before the gate, because she answered the door as soon as I knocked. She was a big mulatto woman, and had come from New Orleans. At least that was her story. She had left New Orleans because she was a rival of Mary LaVue. Mary LaVue was a queen then. You know, and nobody dare rival Mary LaVue. Neither Mary LaVue mama, neither Mary LaVue daughter, who followed her. Some people said the 2 Marys was the same one, but of course, that was people talk. Said the first Mary never died. She just turned younger in her later years. Well, from all I've heard, Mary LaVue was powerful. Helped and hurt a lot of people. But I don't think even she was that powerful. This one name was Madame Guattier. Her name was Eloise Guattier, but everybody called her Madame Guattier. She wore a purple satin dress and a gold-colored head rag. 2 big earrings like the Creole people wear in her ears. She told me to come in. When she heard I had come there for special business, she told me to follow her to another room. It was winter and it was cold, and she had a fire in the fire half. She had candles burning in every corner of the room, and she had 7 on the mantelpiece. She had another candle burning under a little statue on the little table by the window. She had saint pictures hanging on the wall, with crepe paper around each picture. She nodded for me to sit down. After she had put another piece of wood on the fire, she sat down across from me. I had felt a little scared of her till I saw her pull out a piece of wood on the fire. Then I told myself, well, she can get cold just like anybody else, at least. After I told her why I was there, she asked me why hadn't I stopped Joe in my dream from getting on the horse. I told her I couldn't stop him in real life. How could she expect me to stop him in a dream? You ever tried? She asked. I told her yes, I had tried, but he never heard me. It was too dusty or too dark or too much noise was going on, or he was too far away or too something else. Wait, she said. Before you go another step further, how many children you done give to this man Joe Pittman? I am a baron, I said, and I told her what the doctor had said. Ah, she said, slavery has made you a baron, but that is it. That's why he ride them horses? I asked her. That's why you can't stop him, she said. He probably ride horses for many reasons. That man's way to prove something. Day in, day out, he must prove he is a man. Poor fool. Joe is good to me, I said. Sure he is, my dear, she said. But man is foolish, and he's always proving how foolish he is. Some go after lions, some run after every woman he sees. Some ride wild horses. That horse gonna kill him? I asked her. Mon chat, she said. I looked at her waiting. You want the answer? She said. If it's good, I said. There's just one answer, she said. I looked in her face a long time to see what the answer was, but her face wouldn't show it. It was quiet, quiet in the room. So quiet you could almost hear them candles burning. Not quiet, but almost. The fire popped so loud in the fire half it made me jump. Now I was scared of the answer, and I was sorry I had come there. You can go if you want, she said. I want to know, I said. You brave, my dear? She said. That mean you gonna kill him? I asked. I didn't say that, she said. But that's the answer, I said. Oui, she said. And you're absolutely sure? I asked. I don't give nothing but sure answers, she said. I am Madame Alois Gautier, formerly of New Orleans, and that's why she got me out. Nothing can stop it? I asked. Nothing can stop death, Monsieur, she said. Death comes. A black horse, lightning, guns, and you have a gripe. Gripe? I said. What's gripe? Gripe is gripe, she said. Nothing like it. Can I kill that horse? I said. Can you kill death? Madame Gautier said. Your Pittman will stand between you and death. When's it gonna happen? I asked her. Monsieur, she said. Don't you know too much already? No, I said. When he falls 3 times, I said. You gonna fall 3 times? I said. How do you know that? I am Madame Alois Gautier, formerly of New Orleans, she said. If you don't get up after he fall the first time, I said. He will, she said. Chief, and don't get up? He will, even if he must fall 90 times. Chief, he must. Can't you give me something to put in his food? I asked her. She had a little cabinet against the wall, and it looked like all sorts of bottles and jars in the cabinet. Some powder or something to make him sick? I said. If he's sick, he can't ride. You gonna keep him sick? She asked. Till somebody else break that horse, I said. Munsha, 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 she said. I have told you the horse is just one. If not the horse, then the lion. If not the lion, then the woman. If not the woman, then the war. Then the politic. Then the whiskey. Man must always search somewhere to prove himself. You don't know everything is already inside him. Then he won't die? I asked her. Because I can't give him the children? No, he want to live, she said. And not just because you barren. Many reasons. Many, many. But it's in here, Moonshaw, she said, touching her bosom. You don't know the horse can kill him, I said. You don't know that, she said. And he wouldn't believe any man on earth who told him so. He believes a horse is made to be broken. All horses made to be broken, true. But not every man can break every horse. This horse your Pittman will not break. Your Pittman has got old and fat now. Not the man he think he is. He's all right, I said. Ah, Moonshaw, she said. I know what I'm saying, I said. And you can ask anybody else. We talking about breaking horses, Moonshaw, she said. Your Pittman will not break this horse. Another man will have to do it. But if he is true, he will be destroyed by some other horse himself. If he's not true, then something else will take him. It could be Gripe. Gripe again, I said. Gripe can do it, she said. Moonshaw, man is put here to die. From the day he is born, him and death take off that red string. But he never wins. He don't even tie. So the next best thing, do what you can with the little time the Lord spares you. Most men feel they ought to spend them few years proving they men. They choose the foolishest ways to do it. Joe said he wouldn't mind farming if the white people let him farm in peace. I know, Moonshaw, I know, she said. That'll be $1 if you don't mind. I want some powder too, I said. I don't want nothing too strong, just to keep him off that horse. Give me $1.25, she said. While I was getting the money out of my handkerchief, she went to the cabinet. I saw her opening one of the bottles and dumping the powder on a piece of paper. She looked at how much he already had on the paper, then she had a little bit more. When do they break the horse? She asked me. Saturday, I said. Early or late? Late, when the people get there. When the cock crows Sunday morning, Get up and sprinkle some of this on the floor so Pittman will have to cross it, she said. His side of the bed is best. Go to the coral gate and sprinkle some there while the cock is still crowing. And that will keep him from riding the horse? I said. He will not ride, my dear. I paid her and left. My powder and my handkerchief. I felt good. All day I felt good. That night I didn't sleep, but it was because I felt good. But the next day I felt shaky. How did I know the powder was going to work? Maybe she had just given it to me because I was worrying her too much. She didn't take time to pick a bottle. She just grabbed the first one that came to. Matter of fact, I wanted some powder out of that little green bottle, not that red one. I got more and more shaky. Joe asked me if I was alright. Sure, I'm alright, I said. What you gotta be asking me that for? Just asked you, she said. And the house Miss Claire asked me the same thing. Something the matter with you, Jane? Just tired, I said. Go home and come back tomorrow, Miss Claire said. That was Thursday. Thursday night I didn't sleep at all. The next day I felt even worse. Go back home, Jane, Miss Claire said. Joe went hunting that day. And I sat around the house by myself. If I lay down on the bed and shut my eyes a second time, I saw that black devil standing in the corral. That night we went to bed early because the next day was Saturday. The day they broke the horse. Joe was tired from hunting and went right off to sleep. The two girls was asleep in their bed. I was the only one laying there awake. Probably the only awake on that whole place. I knowed I never would get any sleep that night, and I got up and put on some clothes. I was going to sit in the fire half, but the next thing I know, I was outside. It was freezing out there, and the night was clear as day. I didn't know why I had come out here. I knowed when I got up that was not on my mind. Now out there I found myself headed toward the corral. All the other horses was standing there to stay warm, all but him, standing right inside the corral, like he was some kind of majesty. When I got a whiff of my scent, he stopped walking and looked up. I stood there looking at him, my arms folded because it was near freezing. The next thing I knowed, I'd opened the gate, and I was in the corral trying to get him out. I was in the corral, waving my arms, going shoo, shoo, shoo. But he wouldn't go near that gate till Joe came there. Soon he caught sight of Joe. They started for the gate at the same time. He won by a foot and lit out across the field. The ground was frozen, and you could hear him pounding that hard ground a mile. Joe came in there and knocked me down, and he picked me up and thrown me over the fence. I lay down there numb a while. And when I got up, I saw he had swung upon his own horse, and he was going after the stallion. I started hollering and running after him. Don't get back on him! Don't get back on him, Joe! The people came out to see what was the matter. When they heard the stallion was loose, they saddled their horses and went after him. The people came out to see what was the matter. When they heard the stallion was loose, they saddled their horses and went after him. I ran after Joe till I came up to the swamps. Then I turned round and I came back to home. I sat by the fire half all night waiting for them to come back. Early the next morning they came back with the stallion, and with Joe tied to his own horse. They said Joe had cornered and roped the stallion, but with no saddle tie the rope on, the stallion had jerked him off his horse and had dragged him through the swamps. When they found him, he was tangled in the rope, already dead. The horse still had the rope round his neck, eating leaves off the bush to the side. They walked Joe Pittman that night and buried him that Saturday, and the rodeo went back next Saturday. Before it started, they toned the bell 1 minute for Pittman. Every man took off his hat. The ladies bowed their heads. As soon as the minute was up, a young boy called Gable got on the stallion. The stallion throwed him, but he got back on. The stallion throwed him again, and he got back on him again. He kept moving back on till the stallion couldn't throw him no more. Not long after that, him and Ella got married and moved to Texas and took Clara with them. When Joe Pittman was killed, a part of me went with him to his grave. No man could ever take his place. That's why I carry his name to this day. I have known 2 or 3 other men, but none took the place of Joe Pittman. I let them know that from the start. A couple of years after Joe was killed, I met a man called Felton Burks, who was a fisherman on the Seine boat. Felton and his crew was moved to the St. Charles River, and I followed him there. That's how I got to be part of the state. Me and Felton lived together for about 3 years, and then one day he was gone. Didn't say a word, and I didn't know he was gone for good till he didn't come back after a month. But that didn't bother me. Not long after he left, Ned showed up with his family. Professor Douglas. Ned used to write to me, send me money all the time, but he never said anything about coming home. Not even he known when he was coming back here till after he came back from the war in Cuba. That war ended in 1898. Most of the day. No, he came back here the next summer, and a year later, almost of the day, Albert Clavel shot him down. Albert Clavel and his gang patrolled the river from Johnville to Bayonne. Gustave Marius and his bunch took over Johnville all the way to Creoc Place. They used to get contracts to kill people just like you get contracts to cut wood. I was fishing that day when the boy came down to the riverbank and told me some people was at my house. I asked him who they was. He said he didn't know. They said they had come here in a wagon. I pulled in my line and I went up to the bank. I hadn't seen Ned in 20 years, but I knowed it was him the moment I saw him standing on the gallery. Not from the way he looked. He didn't look nothing like he did when he left for Kansas. He was a great big man now, powerfully built, broad shoulders, thick neck. I knowed it was him because I felt it was him. Ned and his wife was standing on the gallery, talking. I knowed it was about me because they were looking at me all the time. Ned still had on his army uniform. He used to wear his uniform everywhere he went. When he was shot down, he was in his army uniform. His wife had on a red dress and a yellow straw hat. The 3 children was playing in the yard. I don't know how I came in the yard because I don't remember pulling that gate open, but I remember walking up the walk saying, I know that ain't nobody but you, Ned. You can't fool me. That ain't nobody but you, Ned. That ain't a soul but you. I couldn't stop saying that, and I know I couldn't say anything else. That over and over. I know that ain't a soul else in the world but you. He met me in the yard and picked me up and swung me around. Me with that pole and bucket still in my hand. I could hear them children laughing. Put me down, I kept saying, but I was having much fun, as the rest of them was having. Put me down, I said. He let me down slowly, and when my head stopped spinning, I stood back and looked at him again. He still didn't look like the Ned I knowed. Even when he smiled, he didn't look the one I remembered. But I knowed it was him because I felt it deep inside me. It was him. We went on the gallery and I met his wife. Her name was Vivian, a little brown-skinned woman, very quiet. Then I met the children, Jane, Laura, and T-Man. The girl's named after me and his mama. T-Man was Junior. We went inside and Ned gave me a package and told me to open it right away. I untied the ribbon and unwrapped the paper. And you never have seen such beautiful cloths of all colors. Lines, blocks, flowers in bloom, leaves. While I was admiring the cloth, Ned opened a wooden box and took out some dishes. He told Vivian about the time he had to borrow a plate from the professor, because I didn't want the professor to eat out of a pan. You still remember that? I asked him. It was me who had to walk up there, up and down the corridors, looking for that plate. I remember, he said. I cooked supper, but I didn't eat with them. I stood back looking at Ned. Still didn't look like him. A boy had left here. A man had come back. Even his hair was turning gray. But when I looked at T-Man, I saw the resemblance. He was black just like Ned. Ned's teeth, Ned's grin, Ned's kinky hair. Looking at him was like looking at Ned when Ned was that size. While Ned was drinking coffee, he told me why he had come back to the South. He had come back to teach. He didn't have a school on the river then. The closest school was in Bayonne, and even the children only went there about 3 months out of the year. Ned asked me what was the people talking about. What was the preachers in church teaching the people? Was they teaching Mr. Booker T. Washington, or was they teaching Mr. Frederick Douglass? Like I was supposed to know that. All I know was Mr. Booker T. Washington and Mr. Frederick Douglass was two great colored spokesmen. What they taught the people... Oh. What they taught the people, I had no idea. Ned said Mr. Booker T. Washington taught that all colored ought to stay together, work together, and try to improve their own lot before they try to mix in with the white folk. Mr. Frederick Douglass taught that everybody ought to work together. Ned had always believed in Mr. Douglass's teachings, and after he went to the war in Cuba, he believed it even more. The place was much his as it was for the white man. That's what he had come back here to teach. I looked at Ned sitting there, at his wife sitting there with her head bowed, and his children listening to everything he was saying. In my heart, I was so happy to see them. They was like my own, because Ned was like my own. But hearing Ned talking like that scared me. Early in the morning, he got up on the horse and started traveling over the parish. The first day he went toward Bayani, the second day towards Creole Place. But the people wasn't listening. Not that they didn't believe in what he was talking about, but they had already seen too much killing. And they'd known that he was preaching, he was going to get him killed. And them too, if they followed. Their churches wouldn't help him either. They told him no when he asked them to let him use the church till he had built his school. Ned bought a horse on the road and started teaching in his house at night. At the same time, he bought a place of land over the riverbank to build a school. Maybe when the people saw what he was willing to do by himself, they would join him. But the white people was already following Ned. They knowed everywhere he went. They knowed everything he did. Albert Clairvaux. Albert Clairvaux had already killed more than a dozen people, black and white. Everybody knowed he had done it, and he wasn't hiding it either. Telling everybody, "Oh yeah, I killed a few times in my here and there, haven't I?" Haven't he told me the same thing? And how many times? I was taking in washing then. I wasn't cooking for nobody. I had my little horse Pigeon. I used to ride to pick up the laundry. Then I brought them in my house and washed them out there in the yard. To get all the water, all I had to do was draw it out the river. All the good water I needed right across the front of my house. After I wash and iron the clothes, I would get back on Pigeon and take them back to the people. Had that whole stretch of the river from where I lived clear to Bayani. In the evening, when it was cool, I would go down the riverbank and fish. In the summer, when it was warm enough, in the winter, I fished particularly every day. Fish I couldn't eat, I used to give to other people. But I reckon I done ate much fish around here as anybody. It's good for you. Fish. Fish and work. Hard work can kill you, but plain steady work never killed nobody. Steady work and eating plenty of fish never killed nobody. Greens good too. Fish and greens, and plenty steady work. Plenty walking, that's good. People didn't walk no more. When you don't walk, you don't drink enough water. Good clean water and greens. Clear out your system. I used to go fishing just about every day when the weather permitted it. Turned my water pail upside down and sat on it till I got ready to go back home. Then I would put my string of fishes in the pail and go up on the bank. Albert Clairvaux used to fish right there beside me. If the water was shallow, he would roll up his pant legs and wade out a piece. But most of the times he sat on the ground fishing right there beside me. Or short-bellowed Cajun. Face looked like somebody had been jabbing him with an ice pick. Had that big patch of hair on his left side of his head. His head white where the hair had been. Sitting there telling me about the people he had killed. I wasn't a Christian then. I didn't join the church till I came to Samson. But I used to say to myself, my Lord, will you just listen to this? You hear this man talking about killing men like you talk about killing snakes. But no matter how he talked, I would sit there and listen to him. Sometimes he would follow me up to the house and sit on my gallery and talk. Sometimes he would go around the house and sit in the back door while I fried fish for supper. If I said, "Mr. Albert, chop me a piece of wood," he would get out there and cut enough wood to last me a week. If I needed something from the store, he would swing upon that mule and go get anything I needed. Sack of rice, flour, it didn't matter. He would bring it all back. After I had cooked, he would sit right there in the back door and eat. Then we had our coffee. He liked his coffee strong, sweet, and black. Sometimes I got him off talking about killing. I would make him talk about fishing and raising crop. He would talk about anything, because most of the people around here either fish or farmed for a living. Anyhow, but in the end, killing always came back in Albert Clairvaux's mind. He wasn't bragging about it, but he wasn't sorry either. It was just conversation. Like if you worked in the sawmill, you talked about lumber more than you talked about cane. If you worked at the derrick, naturally you talk about cane more than you talked about trees. Albert Clairvaux had killed so many people, he couldn't talk about nothing else but that. One day while he was out there fishing, he said, "The people talking about your boy there, Jane. Just think I ought to tell you that." We was fishing in shallow water that day, and both of us was standing there in the river. It was hot, and I could feel the hot river water on my legs. When Albert Clairvaux said that about Ned, my heart started beating so fast I thought I might fall. I held on tight to the fishing pole till I was steady. Then I pulled in my line and went back home. I never did go in the house. I just sat down in my chair on the gallery. I'm sitting there only a minute. There he come, leaned his fishing pole against the end of the gallery, and sat down on the steps. "Any coffee there, Jane?" I didn't answer Albert Clairvaux. What do you say to a fool? I sat there looking at the river. After a while, he forgot he asked me for coffee. Now he started talking about the people he had killed. He talked and talked, sundown before he left my house. I got on Pigeon that night and went to see Ned. Ned was staying further up the road, closer to Bayonne, just across the road from where he's buried now. I could see the horses and mules in the yard when I rode up there. The children had ridden from all over the parish to attend classes. Ned used one of the rooms in the house for a school. I sat in the sitting room with Vivian and the children, and I could hear Ned talking to his students in the other side. After Vivian and the children put the children to bed, me and her sat up there by ourselves. She was never one to talk much, so we sat up there listening to Ned. 11 o'clock, he dismissed class, but some of the children stayed till midnight. I sat there with Vivian till the last one had gone home. Then I got up and went round the other side. Ned was sitting up at the table with his head propped in his hands. He looked up when I came in. He thought I was Vivian. "I just know you was there, Mama," he said. "Just drop by." I had come in to tell him what Albert Clairvaux said, but I could see how tired he was. I didn't want to add burden to his mind. "Something the matter?" he asked me. "Nothing the matter," I said. "I got here early. I just didn't want to disturb you." "I'll ride back home with you," he said. "Pigeon know his way home," I said. He rubbed his hand hard over his face. I stood there looking at him. I still wanted to tell him about Albert Clairvaux. "It's been a long day," he said. "I'm leaving," I said. "You have to stay here tonight," he said. "I'm going to my own house," I said. He went outside with me and led Pigeon up to the gallery so I could get on. Next Sunday, Albert Clairvaux came to my house and sat on my steps. I gave him some coffee, strong, sweet, and black. He sipped and sipped at that coffee. Then he said, "They talk about your boy there, Jane. They don't want him to build that school there. No. They say he's just good to stir trouble amongst blacks. They want him to go back where he come from. They don't know Albert tell you this." A week or so later, I was in the yard heating up water when I saw him getting off the mule. He came up to me and spoke, and I just stood there looking at the water steaming in the pot. "You want me to stop him, Jane?" he said. You mean kill my boy? I said. If they say do it, I must do it, Jane. Raise your head, Mr. Albert, I said. He wouldn't. Mr. Albert? I said. He raised his head slowly and looked at me. Great killer. He was scared of me. I didn't say a thing. I just looked at Albert Claveau. Gray beard all over his old wrinkled face, watery blue eyes. That old felt hat, sweat stink, torn at the top. An old man who ought to be sitting in the sun, here talking about killing. Speak, Mr. Albert, I said. I tell them, me, you, we all the time fish there in the St. Charles River, he said. I tell them I eat at your house. I tell them you make Albert good Carol coffee. I tell them I say, Jane good black woman, just like you see me there. I say, if he must stop, let Mario stop him, not Albert. Albert and Jane side by side fish there in the St. Charles River, they say. Albert Claveau, this your patrol. Marius patrol further down the river. If we say Albert, stop that black, Albert, you stop him. If you don't, Albert, can you kill my boy? I asked him. I must do what they tell me, he said. Can you kill my boy? I asked him. Yes, he said. I looked at Albert Claveau a moment, then I felt my head spinning. I made one step toward the house, then I was down on the ground. I heard somebody way off saying, Jane, Jane, what's the matter, Jane? I opened my eyes, and I saw Albert Claveau, with his ugly face kneeling over me, and I thought I was in hell, and he was the devil. I started screaming, Get away from me, devil! Get away from me, devil! Get away from me, devil! But all my screaming was inside, and not a sound was coming out. I heard from way off, You sick, Jane? You sick? I was screaming, but I wasn't making any noise. I was struggling to get up, but I couldn't move. Get away, I said. Get away from me. I could hear myself, so I know he could hear me too. I saw him standing up, looking funny like I shouldn't be talking to him like that. Looked like he wanted to say, Jane, what I said to make you act like that. I pushed myself off the ground and started toward the house. You need a doctor, Jane? He said. Jane? I went in and lay down on the bed. That evening, I went to Ned. I didn't tell him I had fell, but I told him to be aware of Albert Claveau. All he said was, I will build my school. I will teach till they kill me. I went to Vivian. They'll kill him if you keep on, I said. Why don't you take them children back to Kansas? He'll have to follow you if you go. He told me when he was coming here he would get killed, she said. But I came with him anyhow. I have to stay now. Sermon at the river. 2 weeks before Ned was killed, he gathered us at the river. It was on a Sunday, a beautiful blue sky day. No, you had a few clouds, way up high, paper thin. A little breeze stirred on and off. You could see it moving the willow leaves down near the water. The people was at the river when I got there, but Ned hasn't started talking there yet. He was sitting on the grass with Vivian and the children. When he saw me, he told me to come down and sit with him. One of his students took my arm and helped me down the hill. The bank wasn't that steep. I had gone down them steeper than that. But he wanted to help me, and I couldn't tell him no. I had my head rag on under my straw hat, and I took the head rag off to sit on it. I used my straw hat to fan with. Ned was there in his army uniform, looking serious. I asked him what was the matter. He told me nothing. But Jane, the eldest girl, told me that white people had been passing by there ever since they came down to the river. She pointed to 2 men fishing in a boat. They was close enough for me to see who they were. 2 of the Lacroix brothers from Bayonne. They made their living on the seine boats running up and down St. Charles River. Maybe you ought not to talk today, I said. That's what they want, he said. When everybody had come over, Ned got up and turned his back to the river, and to the men out there in the boat. He told us to kneel while he prayed. After the prayer, he told us to sit down. I looked back at the people who was there, mostly children. The people had stayed home. The old people had stayed home. I can't remember everything Ned said to us that day. I can't even remember half of what he said. But I can remember some. I can remember it because Ned believed in it so much in his talk at the river that they definitely hurried him to his grave. This earth is yours, and don't let that man out there take it from you, he said. It's yours because your people's bones lay in it. It's yours because their sweat and their blood done drench this earth. The white man will use every trick in the trade to get it from you. He will use every way he know, every way to get your wool gathered. He'll turn you against each other. But remember this, he said. Your people's bones and their dust make this place yours more than anything else. I'm not telling y'all men own the earth, he said. Man is just a little bitty part of this earth. When he die, he go back in the earth just like a tree go back in the earth when it fall. Just like iron go back in the earth when it rust. You don't own this earth. You're just here for a little while. But while you're here, don't let no man tell you the best is for him and you take the scrap. No. Your people plowed this earth. Your people chopped down the trees. Your people built the roads, built the levees. These same people is now buried in this earth, and their bones fertilizing this earth. I was listening to Ned, but I was keeping my eyes on the LaCroix brothers, out there in their boat. They pretended they wasn't listening, but they was listening. Each time they whipped out the lines they was looking over where he was. You got some black men, Ned was saying. That'll tell you the white man is the worst thing on earth. Nothing horrible he won't do. But let me tell you this, he said. If it wasn't for some white men, none of us would be here alive today. I myself probably been killed by a white man. I know they follow me everywhere I go. When he said this, everybody looked at the men on the boat. Look at me, Ned said, not them. When the people turned their heads toward him, he went on. But even when he raised the gun, or the axe, or anything else he might use, I won't blame all white men. I'll blame ignorance, because it was ignorance that put us here in the first place. Ignorance on the part of the black man and the white man, because the white man didn't have to go in Africa with guns and get us. But the white man came with rum and beads. And why? Because he was already waiting for him when he came there in his ships. Our own black people have put us up in pens like hogs, waiting to sell us into slavery. He didn't tell the white men how to treat us after he got us on his ship. The white man made up them rules himself. It was just his job to hand us over, and he did that. And that he did. Ned went on. I wish I could stand here and tell y'all our African people fought the white men. And there was war and war and war. But that's not true. Our people fought each other, and the white men bought their captives in a barrel of rum and a string of beads. I'm telling y'all this, he said, to show y'all the only way you can be strong is standing together. The white man never would have brought us here if we was together. He never would have separated a nation. But little tribes beat each other, and all the white men had to do was wait. Ned was sweating, standing there in the sun, and Vivian got up to wipe his face. He told her to sit down, not to come close to him. If the people in the boat shot at him now, he didn't want her to get hit. I don't know how old I am now, he said. I can be 39, I can be 40, or 41. But I've seen a lot in this world, and I know this. I'm as much American as any man. I'm more American than most. And what is this American? I'll tell you what he is, because they didn't have no such thing as Americans till we got here. The Indians was the first ones here, and they never called themselves Americans. Matter of fact, they didn't even call themselves Indians till Columbus here and started that. After him, then here came Vespucci with his stuff. When Ned said Vespucci, the children looked at each other and started giggling. Ned had to smile at that too. The funniest name any of us had ever heard. Vespucci. After the children had quieted down, Ned went on. Columbus had a black man with him when he came here and called the red men Indians. By the time Vespucci came here and called this place America, you had black people running every way which way. America is for red, white, and black men. The red man roamed all over this land before we got here. The black man cultivated this land from ocean to ocean with his back. The white man brought tools and guns. America is for all of us, he said, and all of America is for all of us. I left from there when I was a young man, but most people thought that was the best thing you could do back then. If I say to you now, don't run and do fight. Fight white and black for all of this place. You got black people here saying go back to Africa. Some saying go to Canada. Some saying go to France. Now who amongst y'all sitting here right now want to be a Frenchman and talk like they do? Let me see his hand in the air. The children started laughing. Ned had said that to make them laugh. Be Americans, he told the children. But first, be men. Look inside yourself. Say, what am I? What else does this black skin that the white man call us black? Do you know what a black is? He asked us. First, a black feels below anybody else on earth. He's been beaten so much by the white man, he doesn't care for himself. He don't care for himself. For nobody else and for nothing else. He talks a lot, but his words don't mean nothing. He'll never be American, and he'll never be a citizen of any other nation. But there's a big difference between a black and a black American. A black American cares and will always struggle. Every day that he gets up, he hopes that this day will be better. The black knows it won't. That's another thing about a black. He knows everything. There ain't a thing on earth you don't know, though somebody with brains comes along. I'm telling you all this because I want my children to be men, Ned told us. I want my children to fight. Fight for all, not just for a corner. The black man or white man who tell you to stay in a corner want to keep your mind in a corner too. I'm building that school so you'll have a chance to get out from that corner. One of the children raised his hand, and Ned told him to stand up. The boy was in the back, and we couldn't hear him too good, and Ned told him to speak louder. Ned told him not to pay any mind to the people out in the boat, because if we had anything to hide, we wouldn't come out here in the first place. The boy came closer to the water. Professor Douglas, he said, you keep saying we ought not to listen to Mr. Washington, but ain't Mr. Washington saying that to keep the race from getting slaughtered? Mr. Washington growed up around these white people. He know a man will shoot a black man down just for standing on 2 feet. This is something maybe the people in the North don't know yet. And another thing, Professor Douglas, the boy said. Ain't he saying learn a trade because a trade is a thing that's going to carry this country? The boy stood there, with hands to his side, still, Ned told him to sit down. The boy sat down quickly, but looking at Ned all the time. I felt very proud, seeing how well Ned trained him. Ned smiled and nodded his head. He was proud that one of his students had asked him a question like that. He was always harping on Mr. Washington, and here was another chance to harp on him again. I agree with Mr. Washington on trade, he said, but trade is not all. I want to see some of my children become lawyers. I want to see some of my children become ministers of the Bible. Some write books. Some that represent all people in law. So trade is not all. Working with your hands while the white man write all the rules and laws will no better your lot. Now that other thing, don't mess with the white man and he won't slaughter you. Well, let me tell you a little story. My own mother was killed by white men. Not because she was messing in their business. She was trying to leave the South after she heard of her freedom. Her head and my little sister's head was bashed in with sticks. But other people was killed on that day, he said. And many, many have been killed since. I agree many of them have been killed because they stood up on their 2 feet. But if you must die, let me ask you this. Wouldn't you rather die saying I'm a man than to die saying I'm a counted slave? Mr. Washington might have had the safety of a race in mind, I think Mr. Washington did. But since he made that statement over 5 years ago, over 1,000 men have been lynched, and for no other reason but their black skin. Ned took out his handkerchief and wiped his face, and then he folded it carefully and put it back in his pocket. Maybe one day the white men will tell you to leave this country or die in it, he said. There's talk that this can happen. Well, let me tell you this, warriors. He's got no idea how many of us here. All of us will look alike to him anyhow. So we count 10, get tired, and not count the other 5. And that's on our side. So this is what you do. I might not be with you, and I hope it never come to happen. But if it come to happen, this is what you do. Let everybody go except one young man in each family. Let the young man hide in the swamps, hide in the field. Anywhere he can hide, hide. When the rest are safe, let these young men set fire. As many fields, as many woods, as many houses and barns and cribs he can. Let him run, 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 till his black legs refuse to move, till his black arms hang on the ground. Show them, warriors, the difference between black men and blacks. Ned got quiet and looked at us a long time. His eyes was sad now. Behind him the river was blue and calm, nothing to disturb the water. But that boat over there. Let us pray, warriors. This day never come, Ned went on. If it do, it'll be the worst day of your life. When Ned got through talking, his shirt was soaking wet. He came back where he was and laid down, beside his wife. Everybody was quiet, thinking about what he had said. I felt Ned looking at me. For a while I kept from looking back at him, but keeping my eyes on the other people out there in the boat. But the longer I looked at them, the more I could see him looking at me. Then I looked in his face. His eyes said, I'm going to die, Mama. But I know he had no fear of death. Assassination. A month passed. No Albert Clairvaux. I didn't think he was worrying about stopping that. I didn't think he had sense to worry. I just thought he was sick and couldn't get around. I wanted to ask him. Not that I cared about Albert Clairvaux, but I wanted to know what he was doing. Why all this quiet all of a sudden? Don't tell me conscience was catching up to him. It never bothered him before, but no matter who I asked, nobody had seen Albert Clairvaux. When I went to Bayonne on Pigeon, I had to go by the lane where he lived. But I always found an excuse not to go in his house. Coming back home, the same thing. I would look down the lane, but I would never lead Pigeon that way. I could have gone to his house in 5 minutes, but no, never. But I used to see Ned all the time. He used to live just across the road from where he is buried now. He is buried beside the place where he was building his school. The people finished the school after his death, but it was destroyed during the second high water. That was back in 27, when he had a very bad high water. We had a 1 in 12, but the 1 in 27 was much worse. Ned used to live on the field side of the road. His school was on the riverbank side of the road. Another house is built in the place where his house stood. But we kept the place where his school was and where he is buried. It will never be sold. We collect from people to pay taxes and keep the land. But it is ours. It is for the children of this parish and the state. Black and white, we don't care. We want them to know a black man died many years ago for them. He died at the end of the other century and the beginning of this century. He shed his precious blood for them. I remember my old mistress, when she saw the young Sesh soldiers, saying, the precious blood of the South, the precious blood of the South. Well, there on that riverbank is the precious dust of this South. And he is there for all to see. We have a marker there for people to stop by and see if they want to. No, it is not a tall and showy thing. It is nothing but a flat piece of concrete, but it's there for all to see if they just get out of the car and look. I used to go by all the time when he was alive. He had already claimed up that acre of land, and now he was laying down the foundation of the school. The children used to help him in the evenings and on weekends, when they didn't have work. Sometimes I used to stop by, and instead of finding them working, I would see them out in the river swimming. I was so scared for Ned's life. I was scared the white people might pay some of them bigger children to drown them. He would always come out of the water when he saw me sitting there on Pigeon. "You call that building a school?" I would say. "Me, I call that playing." "I have to teach everything," he said. "Swimming is good to learn." Looking at Ned now, you could see how big he was, how powerfully he was built in the chest and shoulders. If he was standing close to me, I would put my hand on his shoulder. "You worry too much, Mama," he would say. "Do I, Ned?" I would say, because both of us knew that day was coming. When and where, we didn't know. 2 nights before he was killed, I had a dream. There were where a bunch of Cajuns had lynched him in the swamps. The next morning I got on Pigeon and went up to his house. When I told him about my dream, he brushed it aside like it was nothing. While I was up there, he told me he was going to Bayani to get some lumber for his school. He was taking 2 boys with him, and he was going to spend the night in Bayani with a friend. He told me to stop worrying. It was making Vivian worry too. She was already getting nervous, he said. I stayed up there till he left that evening. Then I got on Pigeon and went on back home. The next evening, when he was on the way home with the second load, Albert Claveau shot him down. Alcee Price and Bam Franklin, the 2 boys he took with him, told us how it happened. They had spent the night in Bayani with Ned's friend talking about the school. Nobody went to bed before midnight, even when everybody had to get up early the next morning and go to work. They got up around 5 because they wanted to pick up the lumber and get back before the weather got too hot. They got back to the school around 8:30. That evening, when it got cool again, they went back to Bayani for the second load. After they had loaded it up, it was around 5. They didn't have far to go, 3-4 miles, but they had to travel slow because of the road. The road was dirty and full of ruts, and the lumber was heavy. Bam said every half-mile they had to stop to give the mules a rest. They always stopped in the open. At that time, you had cane fields and houses on one side of the road, trees on the riverbank side. They always stopped near a house or a yard. After resting the mules a few minutes, they would start out again. Bam said they had just driven off the second or third stop when they looked up and saw Albert Claveau. He was on his mule at the end of the cane row with a gun already sighted at Ned. He told Ned to get down. Ned stopped the wagon, but nobody moved. "What do you want?" Ned asked him. "Get down," Claveau said. "You don't scare me, Claveau," Ned said. "Get down," Claveau said. Ned handed Bam the lines. Bam pushed him back. "Let me go," Bam said. "I don't care about me." "But I care about you, Bam," Ned told him. "That's what I've been teaching you all the time. I care about you." "When will you ever hear me, Bam?" "I won't let you die," Bam said. "He ain't got nothing but a double barrel, though. There, he'll need both of them to bring me down." "Stay here," Ned said. "Take the lumber home, finish the school, talk to my wife, talk to Mama." "No," Bam said. "I order you to do that," Ned said. "You must listen to me sometime, Bam." Bam and Alcee both said. Ned looked at them a second. Then he looked all around them, even glancing at the sky, like he wanted to see everything a moment. Then he jumped from the wagon and started running towards Claveau. Claveau hollered for him to stop and get down on his knees, but he kept running on, Claveau, with nothing but his fist. Claveau shot him in the leg. The white people had told Claveau to make Ned crawl before killing him. When Claveau shot him, he fell to one knee, then got back up. Claveau shot again. This time he tore off half his chest. Albert Claveau swung the mule around and rode away. Bam and Alcee didn't go after Claveau. They picked up Ned and laid him on top of the lumber. The lumber was red when they got home. Blood dropped through the lumber on the ground. A trail of blood all the way from where Ned was shot clear up to his house. Even the rain couldn't wash the blood away. For years and years after they had graveled the road, you could still see little black spots where the blood had dripped. The people. When the people heard the news, they started crying. The ones living beside the road followed the wagon to the house. When the people came in from the field, they heard what had happened. They knelt down right there and cried. They didn't want to go near him when he was living, but when they heard he was dead, they cried like children. They ran up to the wagon when it stopped at the gate. They wanted to touch his body. They wanted to help take it inside. The road was full, people coming from everywhere. They wanted to touch his body. When they couldn't touch his body, they took the lumber from the wagon. They wanted a piece of lumber with his blood on it. I knew he was dead before Frank Nelson's boy came there and told me. I was laying down on my bed when I heard his sweeping noise passing through the house. Now what? I said. I sat up and looked at it, and it wasn't sweeping at all. It was a light on the door. Like a flashlight, but not shaking like a flashlight would shake. Moving smooth, going from the front to the back. They done killed him, I said, and I got on Pigeon and started for his house. I met Nelson's boy coming to tell me, but he could see I already knowed, and he turned around and ran back along the side the horse. When I got there, they had already took his body inside and had laid it on the bed. Vivian was sitting on the chair, just looking at the body. People all around her crying, but she wasn't hearing a thing, just looking at the body. I put my arms around her shoulders, and I could feel her trembling. It was hot as it could be, but she was trembling like she had chill. I tried to say something to her, but she didn't hear me. I doubt if she even knew I was there. I just looking at the body. I told the people to get out. Making all that noise wasn't doing a bit of good. Get out. I kept a couple women in there to help me with Ned and Vivian, but I wanted the rest of them out. After we had put Vivian to bed round the other side, I came back in and told the people to let me be by myself with Ned a while. They didn't want to leave me alone, but I told them I was alright, and they went out. I sat down beside Ned and held him close and started talking to him like he was still alive. I can't recall what I said to him, just little talk. I can't recall when I fell on him, but I remember people pulling me off the bed and my clothes soaking wet with his blood. They took me to the children's room and made me lay down. Somebody stayed in the room with me, but I can't recall who it was. The sheriff came and examined the body and asked Bam and Elsie some questions. They told him it was Albert Claveau, like they needed to tell him anything. Like he didn't already know it was Albert Claveau. Like everybody around there didn't already know it was Albert Claveau. But he told them he wanted them to come by Bainey the next day and make a full statement. From what he could see, there were now everybody was too excited to make sense. The next day, Bam and Elsie went to his office. The first thing he asked them, even before they had a chance to say good morning, if they had been to the wake last night. They said yes. He asked them if they had anything to drink there, coffee, or maybe a little wine. They said yes, little homemade wine, blackberry, he said. Uh-huh, now tell me what happened. They told him the only thing they could tell him, that it was Albert Claveau. Shot Professor Douglas. When Professor Douglas wouldn't get on his knees and crawl, he asked him if they were sure it was Mr. Claveau. They said yes, they were sure. They asked him if it was in a cane field or a cornfield. They already told him it was a cane field, so they said it again. He told them with cane so high, that time of the year, in July, how could they see a man? They said Mr. Claveau came out from the cane on the headland. He said he thought they told him Mr. Claveau shot Ned from the cane field. He said just like they was changing the story from the cane to the headland, maybe they would change the story from headland to cornfield. And maybe they would change the story from cornfield to pecan tree. He said if memory served him right, there was a pecan tree close to where Ned was shot. He said, was he right or wrong? They said right. He said, you sure the person didn't shoot from around the pecan tree? They said they were sure he didn't he shot them from the headland of the cane field. He asked them if they had anything to drink the night they stayed in Bainey. They said they didn't. He asked them how come. They said they was too young, and Professor Douglas would have frowned on that. He said what they meant, they was too young. He said they just tell him that they had drunk exactly one night later at its wake. They said do one night age blacks at fast. Or it is the sight of seeing a dead man that put the gray in their head. Bam and Elsie told them they had the drink because some older men had the bottle. One of the older men said, "Here, drink, rejoice. When somebody leave this wicked world, do not weep," he said. "Rejoice, huh? Do not weep, huh? And maybe y'all did some rejoicing in Bainey the night before. And maybe y'all was still rejoicing when y'all came home yesterday. And with all that rejoicing going on, maybe y'all mistook one man for another," he said. He had heard that had often happened when blacks started rejoicing. Half the time they didn't know what they see. And he said how did he know the two of them hadn't gotten together and killed the professor? He said from what he had been hearing around that the professor was getting on a lot of people's nerve talking about making them vote and go to school. He said how did he know some of those people hadn't paid them to shoot that drunk professor? To make him leave them alone. He said just to show you it couldn't have been Mr. Clovo. He had talked to Mr. Clovo the night before. Mr. Clovo had told him with his own mouth, mind you, that he had spent all day yesterday and all night the night before gigging frogs on Rusty Bayou. He said to prove it, old man Clovo showed them the mosquito bites. His poor old body was just full of welts. He told them he wasn't sure they didn't want to call a nice old man like old man Clovo a liar now, did they? They said they could just tell him what they saw. He said he didn't ask them that. He said he asked them if they wanted to call a God-fearing man like Mr. Albert Clovo a liar. They said no. He told them to go on back home, and he didn't want to hear any that kind of talk out of them no more. Vivian stayed here till we finished building the school. Then she went back to Kansas. She wanted to stay here and do Ned's work, but we was scared she could get herself killed just like Ned was killed. We made her go, and we hired a teacher by the name of Jones, Professor Jones. Didn't look like nothing like Ned. A little light-skinned man, about half Ned's size. Didn't teach what Ned wanted to teach either. Taught just what them and Bainey told him to teach. Reading and writing, and rhythmic. And we had to take that or get nothing. He stayed there till the high water destroyed the school in 27. The Chariot of Hell. I waited till we had put Ned in the ground. And then I went to look for Albert Clovo. But no matter when I came up to his house, Adeline, the oldest girl, said he had just left. "What do you want?" she said. "I want to talk to him," I said. "Daddy just left," she said. I would turn Pigeon around and go on back home. But that evening or the next day, I would go back to the house again. Every time I thought about Ned, I would head back to the house. Adeline would be standing on the gallery waiting for me. "I want to speak with your daddy." "Daddy just left." "Just left again, huh?" "Yes, Jane. One day I made pretend I was going back home. I went a little piece and came right back. I saw him sitting on that mule back there in the yard. He was getting ready to go down when he looked up and saw me. He swung that mule around and shot out across the yard, headed for the swamps. Another time when I went there, he didn't have time to get on the mule, headed for the swamps, and left the mule." "Where's your daddy?" asked Adeline. "Gone." "Where?" "Bainey." "What George doing back there in the yard?" I said. "You know Albert Clovo ain't never went to the toilet if it wasn't on George's back." "He walked this time," Adeline said. "I'll catch him," I said, and left. But I knowed then I would never catch Albert Clovo at that house. Him or one of them children would see me long before I ever got there. I would have to catch him somewhere else. Not to kill Albert Clovo. That wasn't it. What would I look like killing Albert Clovo? Let God kill him. Let the devil take him. I just wanted to speak to him. But he did everything to stay out of my way. He kept one of them children looking out for me at his house. If I was fishing or getting water out on the river, he wouldn't even pass on the main road. He would go use the back road. If he noted it was the time of day I liked to sit on my gallery, he would go down to the river bank to pass my house. Sometimes I would see him laying down far as he could on that mule to keep me from seeing him. I knowed if I had run out in the yard or if I had jumped on Pigeon, he would have been too far away for me to catch him. So I just waited. I bid my time. One day the devil fooled Albert Clavaux. Guy Collier was fishing in front of my house. Me and Aunt Guy Collier was about the same size and color, and he thought it was me down there. So we turned around and headed on for the back road. I was back there on Pigeon on my way to see Dune White at Gross Tate. The crop was high, and we didn't see each other till we made the bend, and Pigeon almost butt George in the head. Now Albert Clavaux wanted to turn and run, but I already seen him, and he had no place to go. So he turned his head. I let him turn his head good, but I told him what I had been wanting to tell him for a long time. Mr. Albert Clavaux, when the chariot of hell come rattling for you, the people will hear you screaming all over this parish. Now you just ride on. The people wanted to say I went for a hoodoo for Albert Clavaux, but I didn't go for no hoodoo, because I don't believe in hoodoo. I went just for one hoodoo in my life, and that was for Joe Pittman and the horse. But even then, I didn't believe in the way you supposed to. I went to her because nobody else would listen to me. But after I had gone, I still didn't take her advice. Anywho, the word got back to Albert Clavaux that I had gone to a hoodoo, and he, so simple-minded, he started to believe it. A year or so later, he came down sick, and thought he was going to die. And now he jumped in his bed with his two daughters, Adeline and Christine. His wife had been dead, and him and his sons had done so much dirt together, he was scared to sleep in the same room with them. Adeline and Christine begged and begged Albert Clavaux to get out of bed. It wasn't nice. What would people think? Albert Clavaux said that he didn't care what people thought. He heard the chariot of hell in that other room with his sons. Adeline told him there was no such thing. Albert Clavaux said he knew better. He heard it. He dared them to get out of bed and sleep on the floor. They had to sleep on both sides of him and protect him from the chariot of hell. By and by he started hearing the chariot of hell, even in his room with the girls. But he heard it in just one ear, the ear that was pointed towards Adeline, so he reckoned Adeline hated him. She had always been ashamed of him, so now she must hate him, too. Besides, that he was sure she was messing around with men when he wasn't at the house. And he didn't want his daughters to be rotten like him and his sons. He wanted them to stay pure. That's why he always made them go to church, to keep them pure. But either Adeline wasn't pure or she hated him. Clavaux. Adeline, you hate your pop. Adeline. No, pop. Clavaux. Adeline, you pure. Adeline. I swear by the Holy Mother I'm pure, Papa. Albert Clavaux would turn over, but still the chariot of hell would come from Adeline's side of the bed. Clavaux. Adeline, if you're so pure, Adeline, if you don't have no hate in your heart for your papa, who never do you no wrong. Adeline, how come that chariot of hell he just run over there, huh? Adeline told him, Papa, there ain't no chariot of hell. Clavaux told her she was a damn liar, and he jumped out of bed and started beating her with the strap. The boys had come round there and pull him off. After a while, he would get back in bed, but the chariot would start all over. Poor Adeline would lay on her side of the bed crying in the sheet. This went on for days, for weeks. Then one day, Adeline came to my house. She would do anything if I took the hoodoo off her papa. I told Adeline I had no more hoodoo on Albert Claveau than I had on my own self. It was just sinning ways catching up with it. Adeline pulled her dress down over her shoulders and showed me the welt marks where Albert Claveau had beat her. She told me to please help a little Cajun gal who had done nobody no harm in all her life. I told her I couldn't do a thing because I had no hoodoo on Claveau. I asked her if she wanted some coffee and tea cakes. She said yes. She was a big, fine gal, big pretty legs. She was already old enough to be married, but they kept her there to cook for them. I gave her some coffee and tea cakes, and we sat there on my gallery. It's not me, she said. I'm not bad. I'm a true virgin. I believe in my Catholic faith. But Christine, she's no virgin. No virgin her. She went bad at 11. But she is the baby. And they like her. None care for poor Adeline. And even the chariot can find no place to run but on my side. Every night he run. Every night Papa jump out of bed and go with me. I want to leave, but where would poor Adeline go? I changed sides with Christine. I said, Christine, dearie, sleep here. Let your poor sister Adeline get one night's peace. Christine's got a pure soul. Poor dear, she says. All right, my dear, we changed sides. But do that stop the chariot? Christine went bad at 11, but that chariot runs right where I sleep. That hoodoo is against me more than it is against my papa. You must take it off, Jane. I ain't got no hoodoo on your papa, I told her. I told him when the chariot of hell came for him, we would hear him all over the parish. That we will. That I will. Lest the Lord take me first. Other men who did the dirt your papa done have screamed at the last moment. He will scream too. Yes, Adeline, he will scream. But that has nothing to do with hoodoo. It's hell's beckoning. He's poor and foolish, Jane. He shouldn't have killed my boy. Do you hate me, Jane? I don't hate you, I said. I don't even hate him, but he will pay. I'm the one paying, she said. I'm the one suffering. You don't know what suffering is, Adeline, I told her. I showed you the marks on my back, she said. I wish I could show you the ones on my heart, I told her. Poor Jane, she said. Claveau didn't come to die for 10 more years. Died just before the high water there of 12. Christine had been gone, had fooled around with every man on that river, black and white, had gotten more buckets of figs, pecans, muscadines from them black boys on the river than you'd care to name. The one day she got a wagon with a drummer from St. Francisville. The drummer used to sell pots and pans and sharpen knives and scissors. Him and Christine left one Saturday evening. That poor Adeline was still at the house. Albert Claveau wasn't sleeping in the same bed with her now. She told them when Christine ran off with the drummer, he had to go back round the other side. If he didn't, she was going to run off too. He went back round the other side, and she stayed there to look after him, just like the two of them there now. The boys had run off just like Christine did. The weekend Albert Claveau died, poor Adeline lived in a madhouse. People would hear Claveau screaming half a mile. He died on a Sunday. Jules Patton passed by my house and told me Claveau was at the point of death. I asked him how he knowed. He said he had heard him screaming, and when he asked the Cajun what was the matter, the Cajun told him Claveau was at the other point of death. I had always thought I wanted to hear Claveau scream. I had told myself that ever since he killed Ned. But that had happened so long ago, and now I couldn't help but feel sorry for Claveau, especially Adeline there. But everybody else heard him screaming. People went by the house all the time of day and night just to hear him scream. The doctor came, the doctor went, and he still screamed. Adeline sat on the side of the bed, wiping his face with a damp towel, but Claveau screamed, just before he came to die. He pushed Adeline away and got out of bed. Nobody thought he had that kind of strength left. He had his hands up the way you hold a gun. "I'll kill him," he said. "I'll kill him, I'll kill him." He made 2 steps and fell. He covered his head and screamed for Adeline to stop the horses. She knelt down on the floor beside him, and he died there in her arms. That is the end of book 2.